Hey guys, welcome back to Telltale. I'm Emily.
I'm Greg.
And today we are going to be talking about Clifford Simak's Mastodonia.
Okay.
I kind of just like... This one I happened to just run into in an article I was reading, and it's like,
Okay.
oh, it's based in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So are we. I've
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to read a Clifford Simak, and it sounded kind of funny,
Mm-hmm.
which it kind of is.
It is.
So I was like, let's give this one a whirl. So
Mm-hmm.
Greg agreed,
Mm-hmm.
and here we are.
And of course, I had just started doing a complete read of Clifford Simak, starting with his earliest stories. So, little out of order, but that's okay.
Yeah, this one just intrigued me so much when I read the synopsis of it that I was just like, we need to read this.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, like, Wisconsin.
Now, the history, and I believe I already did a video on Project Mastodon. It was a novelette that Simak wrote in the 1950s. If I'm remembering correctly, it was in Galaxy magazine. And way later in the 1970s, 1978 is when it was published, he took that Project Mastodon story and rewrote it into Mastodonia. But Project Mastodon is a lot different from Macedonia. I guess I'll give you this. Let you do the synopsis, and then we'll talk about that.
Okay, so the synopsis is this gentleman goes and buys a property in the town he grew up in when he was young, and he's a professor of archaeology, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes to this town and buys this property because he keeps finding unusual things on this property as he explores it.
Mm-hmm.
And so does his dog.
Mm-hmm.
His dog keeps coming back either with injuries, or one time he brought a huge dinosaur bone,
Mm-hmm.
or what appeared to be a dinosaur bone, with the flesh still on it.
Yep.
Fresh flesh still on it.
Yeah.
And so he's like, something weird is going on in this place. So the second he had the opportunity to buy the property, he did. And there's this huge crater that is kind of the evidence of this crater there. And as he explores it, he keeps finding shrapnel that's really, really old,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no reason it should be there. Like,
Right.
there's no recollection in his timeline or any of the town's history that this crater was made when humans were around.
Mm-hmm.
So he buys the property, and one day one of his old colleagues, who is also was in archaeology and now does like art and archaeological sales, and she's a female, and there's a little love interest there, and it's kind of fun and interesting, but they discover that there's this creature that everybody calls Catface,
Mm-hmm.
that they can't quite identify what kind of animal it is. It is so unearthly, and you can't quite like see it.
Mm-hmm.
But then they find that one of the simpletons in town who claims to talk to the dog
Mm-hmm.
can talk to this thing
Mm-hmm.
and has conversations with it, but because he's kind of a simpleton, he doesn't understand. And at first they're like, there's no way this guy can actually talk to animals. But our main character is actually a very kind person and just lets people be who they are,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a wonderful characteristic of a character.
Yeah.
And finds out that this town simpleton actually can communicate with animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has the guy go and approach Catface and interpret what Catface is saying to him. And they find out that Catface is an alien. And it can make time wormholes, essentially, or portals into other timelines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bored. And has been there for like 10,000 years or something.
Yeah, crashed and is
stranded and is waiting for someone to come rescue him. And it's
Mm-hmm.
been 10,000 years. So he's like, can I make wormholes for the dog? And that's why the dog comes back sometimes injured or comes back with artifacts that it
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have, because I'm bored and I want to have some kind of camaraderie, and my purpose as a being is to make wormholes.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, cool. And then, of course, the female's like, okay, how do we capitalize on this?
Mm-hmm.
So they start building a business.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly getting people who are hunters to go back in time and get really large game.
Yeah. They start a safari business.
Yeah, a safari business
Instead
back
of
into
hunting big game like elephants and tigers, you go back in time and hunt mastodons and Tyrannosaurus rex.
and the big stuff. And of course, they get like the banker in town is an old buddy of this guy, so he's like, financially, we want you in on this to help us out with stuff. Who is also a hunter, so they're utilizing him to try and figure out what they can actually get. They're trying to get films so that they can advertise to other safari companies to do stuff and make partnerships and all kinds of other stuff. But they end up figuring that in order to evade taxes, it is best for them not to reside in the United States. So they decide they're going to reside in what is the United States, but in a different timeline. And they call it Mastodonia. So they build a house in the time of the mastodons. And while they're living there and stuff, they actually end up getting like a pet mastodon, sort of. Like, they don't want it around, but it hangs out and it's old. And they're like, it's kind of sweet. Let's just let the old guy hang out around the house and that sort of thing. But then the unthinkable happens. Their friend who can interpret the animals and can talk to them ends up getting severely injured in Mastodonia and ends up spending weeks and weeks in the hospital because he got bit by a very venomous snake. And he's in recovery mode. So the main character keeps going and visiting with Catface and just having like yes or no conversations and having Catface blink at him, only to find out in a period of time that when he's sitting with Catface, he feels like something's kind of prodding at his brain. And eventually it breaks through and it's actually Catface trying to figure out how to telepathically communicate with our main character while their friend is in the hospital. And he is successful and shows him the mysteries of the universe. Mostly Catface just wants to relate to him and shows him his history. And how he became and what he is and how he got on Earth and all this other stuff. And the mathematics behind the wormholes and all this other stuff. Like, just trying to find ways to relate to this human and pass on information about what he is. Which plays a pivotal part in the story later. Should I spoil it or should I not?
No, don't spoil it.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it. Because, like, that's a very pivotal part of the thing. But it is... Of course, everything goes to hell. And so the rest of it is trying to figure out how to deal with everything that could go wrong and does. And it's a very interesting story.
And for those of you who have read Jurassic Park or seen the movie, which is by now everybody on the planet, you'll probably notice some familiar things going on here. The main difference being that these people are actually traveling back in time instead of reviving dinosaurs through their DNA. But it's the same deal where you create basically a theme park for people to go on safaris and see the dinosaurs. I don't think Jurassic Park was going to allow anybody to hunt.
No, they weren't allowing hunting, but it was going to be like a zoo, essentially.
Yeah, and so I think that kind of shows the difference in times. You know, that in the when the original story was written in the 1950s, nobody thought much of big game hunting as being a bad thing. By the time Jurassic Park was written, though, you had lots of people that were saying how terrible it was because some species were being forced into extinction by big game hunting. So anyway, there is that basic similarity with Jurassic Park, but that's kind of where the similarity ends. Jurassic Park is a thriller, very suspenseful, very horrific, lots of gross things happening. There's some of that in Mastodonia, but it's kind of offstage. You see the aftermath. It's not really described directly. Another thing with Mastodonia is that when this was first it did actually have an alternate title of Catface in the UK. And when this was published, it didn't make a very big splash, even though Simak was one of the grandmasters from the Golden Age, very, very highly respected. This book didn't get a lot of publicity. I went back and read some of the reviews, and they basically just said Clifford Simak wrote Macedonia. It's about this. They didn't really give much opinion about it that I could see. Both the review by Lester Del Rey in Analog and a review by Orson Scott Card in Science Fiction Review really didn't say much about the novel.
Other than
Just
they read it.
basically reported that it was there.
Yeah.
So it didn't get a lot of attention. It didn't get a lot of publicity, and never made much of a splash in science fiction.
Which surprises me.
I do have a first edition copy,
It's beautiful.
hardcover, from Del Rey Books, 1978, with a beautiful Henry Van Dongen cover.
Very nice.
I think a lot of why this novel is mostly forgotten and didn't even make a splash at the time is that it isn't Jurassic Park. It isn't thrill a minute. It isn't exciting.
It's
it
kinda
isn't
cozy.
gore.
It's like a cozy adventure.
Yeah, I think I was mentioning to you that I hear a lot about people talking about cozy books, and it's usually cozy murder mysteries.
Yeah. Cozy murder mysteries.
I don't personally find anything cozy
He
about
wrapped the
the
body
idea
in a
of
quilt
mystery.
after he stabbed it 18 times.
But
Anyway.
if I was going to characterize any book as cozy, I would characterize this one as cozy. Like a lot of, and Clifford Simak is known for this style. He came from a small town in Wisconsin, Millville. He set some of his stories in Wisconsin, Mastodonia. His Hugo award-winning book Way Station is also set in Wisconsin, and it's that similar kind of pastoral, small town, almost Andy Griffith show type feel to the book.
Yeah.
Where the people are nice, things are kind of slow and easy, and
Something big happens. Yeah.
something big happens, but people don't get overly excited. They aren't. There aren't these big dramatic things going on. It's people.
This one has that big dramatic thing, though. I will say that exception.
Yeah.
It becomes a philosophical debate
Mm-hmm.
between. There is a point in the book where the church, we don't say, like, it isn't necessarily Catholicism itself, but a conglomerate of all different churches are trying to make it illegal to go back in time to see Jesus.
Yeah.
So there's that.
There were some political issues that came up with this, and the fact that they established their own country is a lot of what gets them out of a lot of this stuff, because the laws of the United States of America just didn't apply.
Yeah, don't apply.
United States of America didn't exist in the Paleolithic era.
Yeah, so they live in their own country, and so there's a lot of political things surrounding it, and it is a little more intense than just the Andy Griffith show style. It starts very Andy Griffith show style, but this was also really fast paced. It isn't a low and slow read. This is a very fast paced book. But
there's it's not the thriller kind of thing like Jurassic Park, which is what I think most people would prefer. It is a little more laid back, small town Wisconsin.
It's light. It's light reading. This is a good sci-fi beach book. Is really what this is.
Yeah.
If you want a beach book but you're a sci-fi lover, this is the kind of book you should be reading.
So I fell in love with this book. I've read other stuff by Clifford Simak. I had never read this one before. I fell in love with this book because it was so nice. The people were nice. They were nice people. Yeah. They were people I'd want to have drinks with.
They weren't trying to be malicious in any way. Like, even their rationalizations for things were like... I mean, they really thought deeply about the repercussions of what they were doing. And yes, you can't think of everything. They were very human. I liked that they were also very human. Like, there were moments where they're like, I regret having done this. Or, man, this just became more of an issue. Like, we thought of everything, and of course we didn't, but damn, we should have thought of this kind of things. And I really appreciated that because they weren't cardboard characters where everything's going to turn out fine.
Very good characterization, but they were decent people.
Yes.
They were people I would want to have a drink with.
Yeah.
They were people I'd want to invite to my house for a barbecue.
Yeah.
They were they were decent. Even the old Mastodon, was likable.
Yes.
The dog was likable.
Yes.
Catface was likable. The moron was likable.
Yes.
I mean, they were all likable characters. They
Yeah.
were all good characters that you just get the warm fuzzies about.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The only ones who didn't feel great were the religious folks.
Yeah.
They kind of came off as being real sleazy, which, yeah.
And another thing you might criticize this
Mm-hmm.
for is he really didn't go far enough with that religious debate.
Oh, he could have. He could have gone
That
so
could have
deep.
become very dramatic and very
Yes.
deep. Especially where one religious group wanted to go. They didn't want to go back to see Christ. They wanted to quarantine that part of history.
They just wanted
and
nobody
stop
to be
anybody
able
from
to do
being
it.
able to go back. Because, of course, if people actually did that, they might find out that it was all crap.
Yeah, they want there to be a mystery surrounding Christ for
Right.
whatever reason.
So they were afraid that their religious power would be curtailed by people going back in time and finding out the truth.
Yeah.
Which I read something in another book of Clifford Simak's stories where Simak did a lot of this in his books where he brought up these religious questions like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like he doesn't come across as an atheist,
No.
but he does call a lot of religious sacred cows into question in his books, but in kind of a subtle way.
Yeah,
he was
he's not
smart
very
about it.
like direct or offensive. Like
No,
even the sleaziness that I felt towards these was probably more my perception of the kind of people I've dealt with being raised in a religious household and people who are trying to undermine and be like power hungry. And I didn't even see it as power hungry.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like they're just like, in order to have adequate faith, you have to also have a mystery, which is good logic and theologically sound. So it could have gone either way. It's like, we just want people like to know that that's off limits because faith should be out of sight. Like it does have to be a little blind in order for it to work.
And we know in the real world that if you actually were going back in time and bringing back dinosaur bones, today there's all kinds of people that would say, oh, they're just faking all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not real. It's this big conspiracy to pull the wool over our eyes and there are no dinosaurs.
Yeah, yeah. And the nice thing is that in the era that this was written, there wouldn't have been the editing software and things for the film that they got. Like the pictures in the film. So like they could only take the film as real.
Yeah.
Which I appreciated because in nowadays they'd be like, they'd be gaslighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's CGI.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fine, don't believe us. Whatever. We don't care.
So, I want to give this top tail status, but I
agree.
know that the vast majority of readers, probably the vast majority of our viewers, would read this and say, this book is boring.
I don't think so. It is so fast-paced and there are such interesting philosophical questions. I think if you go into it knowing that there's some thinking involved and some deeper delving that you may have to do in order to appreciate the story for what it is, I don't think you'll find it boring at all.
Okay.
But I would totally put this in top tail status because it is very nice.
Precisely because it's not what everybody else would write. It's not handled how every other author would do it. It is very different from anything else you're going to read in the science fiction genre. And it is very Clifford Simak.
Yes.
If anybody who's read Way Station or City knows that his stories are these kind of nice pastoral small town kinds of stories.
Yes.
Even though they're dealing with the far future. You'll still have a guy on a farm in a shack where the aliens are coming through.
And he's just like, hey Bob.
Yeah.
The flying saucer looks a little dented up. Want me to buff that up for you?
But that's, Clifford Simak brings Midwestern life into science fiction in a way that no one else ever has, which makes his work brilliant. It makes Mastodonia a definite underappreciated classic.
It is.
It needs to be read more. It needs to be reprinted because I think I know there's ebooks of it, but otherwise there's not really a reprinting of it.
So cute and so fun and has some depth, and
Mhm.
it's not too much. It's a great summer read.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I loved it.
I did too.
Top tail.
Yep.
We've decided.
And I wasn't expecting that. I thought
Yeah, I wasn't either.
because I've always seen it as a minor work of Simak's towards the end of his career.
Thought there would be more humor than there was.
Yeah, there's plenty of humor.
And there is plenty of it, yes. So that's kind of why I wanted to read it, thinking it was more of a comedy. I was not expecting to take it so seriously as I did and enjoy it at that level.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be more disappointed than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved it. It was great. Fantastic book. Read it, or else.
She'll hunt you down.
I'll find you. Chat GPT can tell me everything. No, I'm kidding. Scratch that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's all I have to say about it. It was a great read.
Yeah, so another one joins the list.
Yay!
And have you read Mastodonia? If you have, please leave comments. Leave comments anyway, even if you haven't. Just talk to us.
Yeah, we like talking.
Yeah, and like us and subscribe to us, and come on back for more. I've started a whole series of Clifford Simak's, going back to the beginning and trying to read everything I can get my hands on. I think I've gone through the first two so far, the first two stories, way back in the early 1930s.
Nice.
Yeah, they weren't the greatest stories, but okay, he was young, he was dumb, he was starting out in the pulps.
And it was the 30s.
Yeah, it was the 30s when you solved every problem by inventing a new ray.
Ray gun. Every time.
But I'll be going through the rest of Clifford Simak in order as fast as I can. I bought the complete series of his short stories. That's
I see that
big stack there.
I see.
Unfortunately, they're all in trade paperback. I would prefer hardcover.
I like the colors. They're very pretty.
Yeah, they're nice books from Open Road Integrated Media.
Very nice. So yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yes, and we will see you next time.
Bye.